2 years ago, my ex-wife Amanda left me for Jake, the charismatic sales manager at her company, who she claimed made her feel alive in ways I never could. I was devastated, lost everything in the divorce, and watched them flaunt their new relationship while I picked up the pieces. Now at 35, I am a transformed man with a thriving career, new home, and renewed purpose. The look on Jake's face at our mutual friend's wedding, when he realized I was not just surviving but winning, was something I will never forget. Before I tell you how everything unfolded that night, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you have ever risen from the ashes of a relationship that was meant to destroy you. 7 years ago, I was climbing the corporate ladder at Horizon Tech, transitioning from a software engineer to leading development teams. I had built a reputation as the guy who could solve impossible problems, which put me on track for the executive team. My personal life, however, lacked the same direction until I met Amanda at my college roommate's housewarming party. Amanda entered the room and immediately commanded attention. Her confident stride and engaging laugh drew me in, and by some miracle she seemed equally interested in me. We talked until the hosts were practically pushing people out the door. I asked for her number, certain she would decline, but she smiled and put it directly into my phone. Our relationship progressed with the intensity of a wildfire. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. She was a marketing coordinator, with ambitions of reaching director level, and we bonded over our career aspirations. A year later, I proposed during a weekend trip to Napa Valley. The wedding followed 4 months after that, a lavish affair that stretched my savings but seemed worth every penny to see her happiness. The first 2 years were everything I thought marriage should be. We purchased a Tudor-style home in an upscale suburb, traveled to Bali and the Amalfi Coast, and filled our social media with enviable moments. Friends commented on how perfect we seemed together. I believed it too. The problems began subtly in our 3rd year. Despite Amanda's enthusiasm for the lifestyle my salary provided, she grew increasingly resentful of my work hours. The same job that funded our vacations and her designer wardrobe became her primary complaint. "You care more about your work than our marriage," she would say, even on nights when I came home by 7. The criticism extended to other areas. My friends were boring, my hobbies were predictable, my ambitions were safe. I tried adjusting. I turned down projects that would require extra hours, started coming home earlier, even passed on a promotion that would have meant more travel. Nothing seemed to satisfy her growing discontent. One Tuesday evening, I returned home early to surprise her with concert tickets to her favorite band. The house was empty, but her phone was on the kitchen counter, buzzing repeatedly with incoming messages. I had never checked her phone before, but something about the persistence of the notifications drew my attention. The text preview showed messages from Jake W., referring to yesterday, and "cannot wait to see you again." With a sickening feeling, I tapped open the conversation. Months of messages unfurled before me, revealing an affair that had been going on for nearly 6 months. When Amanda returned home, I was sitting at the kitchen table, her phone placed squarely in the center. Her expression shifted from surprise to defiance as she realized what had happened. "Were you going through my private messages?" she demanded, attempting to flip the script. "How long have you been sleeping with Jake?" I asked quietly. The argument that followed revealed more than just the affair. Amanda had been cultivating a separate life for months, confiding in Jake about her suffocating marriage and how she had settled for me. She did not deny the relationship, instead pivoting to how my emotional unavailability had forced her to look elsewhere. "Jake makes me feel alive in ways you never could," she declared, the words hitting like physical blows. "He is spontaneous and passionate. He sees me, really sees me." "When was the last time you truly saw me, Bryant?" Within weeks, she had moved out and filed for divorce. California's community property laws meant she was entitled to half of everything, including my stock options that had recently vested. She took the house, claiming she had emotional attachment to it, though she sold it 6 months later. I moved into a depressing 1-bedroom apartment near the office. Depression settled over me like a heavy fog. I gained 30 pounds, rarely sleeping more than 4 hours a night. My work performance suffered for the first time in my career. Friends invited me out, but I declined, unable to bear their pity, or worse, their awkward attempts to avoid mentioning Amanda. Meanwhile, Amanda and Jake's relationship blossomed publicly. Their Instagram accounts featured exotic vacations, expensive restaurants, and loving selfies with captions about finding true happiness and never settling. Each post was a fresh wound, a reminder of my failure. At my lowest point, I was a shell of myself, barely recognizable to those who knew me before. While Amanda appeared to be living her best life with Jake, I seemed to be the definitive loser in our divorce story. 6 months after the divorce finalized, I woke up with chest pains that sent me to the emergency room. It was not a heart attack, just severe anxiety, but the doctor's concerned face as he reviewed my vitals was its own wake-up call. Your blood pressure, cholesterol, and stress hormones are all dangerously high, he told me. Whatever is going on in your life, it is literally killing you. That hospital visit became my turning point. I could continue deteriorating over a woman who had discarded me, or I could reclaim my life. The choice suddenly seemed obvious. I sought out a therapist specializing in divorce recovery. Dr. Melissa Turner helped me recognize that Amanda had been emotionally manipulative throughout our marriage, constantly moving the goalposts of what would make her happy. Your worth is not determined by her inability to appreciate you, Dr. Turner said during one pivotal session. The question now is, who does Bryant want to be on the other side of this pain? That question catalyzed my transformation. I developed what I called my rebuild plan, a comprehensive approach to recreating my life in 4 key areas: physical health, career finances, and personal growth. For physical health, I hired Michael, a personal trainer who had helped other clients through divorce. 3 sessions a week, I pushed through grueling workouts that left me too exhausted to ruminate on the past. Michael also revamped my nutrition, eliminating the takeout and alcohol that had become dietary staples. Within 2 months, people at work noticed the change. By 8 months, I had lost 30 pounds and developed muscle definition I had never had before. Career-wise, I recommitted to excellence. I arrived early, contributed meaningfully in meetings, and took on a struggling project others avoided. After turning it around, I received a promotion to VP of Product Development with substantial equity in the company, placing me firmly on the executive track I had previously sidelined for Amanda. Financially, I became strategic rather than emotional. I consulted with financial advisors who helped me recover from the divorce settlement. I invested in several emerging tech companies, bought cryptocurrency before a significant market surge, and started a consulting side business leveraging my technical expertise. Within 18 months, my net worth exceeded what it had been before the divorce. Personal growth proved the most challenging yet rewarding area. I pushed myself to try experiences Amanda had dismissed as boring or not her thing. I traveled solo to Iceland, hiking glaciers and photographing waterfalls. I spent 2 weeks in Japan exploring Tokyo and Kyoto, discovering a passion for photography that became therapeutic. I joined a hiking group and made new friends with no connection to my previous social circle. I attended entrepreneurship meetups, where I connected with motivated individuals who inspired further growth. For the first time in years, I was building relationships based on mutual interests, rather than trying to accommodate someone else's expectations. The external changes reflected deeper internal shifts. I no longer needed validation from others, particularly not from Amanda. I bought and renovated a modern loft in the city's most desirable neighborhood, designing it entirely to my taste without compromising for anyone else's preferences. Throughout this transformation, I maintained minimal social media presence. This was not about creating a curated image of success to provoke jealousy. It was about building a genuinely fulfilling life. The satisfaction came from living it, not displaying it. Mutual friends occasionally mentioned Amanda and Jake. I learned their relationship was not the fairy tale Instagram suggested. Jake's sales job involved inconsistent commissions, creating financial strain as Amanda maintained expensive tastes. There were rumors of trust issues, arguments about money, and Amanda's growing dissatisfaction. I absorbed this information without satisfaction or malice. Their relationship was no longer my concern, their problems not my vindication. I was too busy building something new to dwell on their struggles. 18 months after the divorce, an invitation arrived for Alex and Sophia's wedding in Napa Valley. They were college friends who had been together since freshman year, finally tying the knot at a picturesque vineyard. I knew immediately that Amanda and Jake would likely attend, as Sophia had remained close with Amanda despite the divorce. I considered declining, but ultimately decided to go. These were my friends too, and avoiding the event would give Amanda continued power over my choices. Besides, I was curious if I could face them with genuine indifference rather than lingering pain. The wedding would be the ultimate test of my recovery. The wedding weekend arrived on a perfect May afternoon. I drove my new Tesla up to the Napa resort, sunglasses on windows, down feeling a calm confidence that would have been unimaginable 2 years earlier. The valet raised appreciative eyebrows at the car, another small reminder of how far I had come. Checking into my suite, I spotted Amanda and Jake by the pool. They did not notice me, and I took a moment to observe them from a distance. Amanda looked much the same, still beautiful, but with a tightness around her smile I recognized from our final months together. Jake appeared less confident than in his social media photos, his casual arm around Amanda, seeming somewhat performative. The rehearsal dinner that evening brought our first indirect encounter. We were seated at different tables, but the small venue made complete avoidance impossible. I caught Amanda doing a double take when she saw me, her eyes widening slightly at my transformed appearance. Jake followed her gaze, a flicker of something passing across his face before he whispered something in her ear. I focused on reconnecting with old friends, many expressing surprise and approval at my physical transformation. "Divorce looks good on you," joked my college roommate Mark, before adding more seriously, "Seriously, though, you seem really good. Happy." From across the room, I overheard fragments of Amanda telling her tablemates how incredibly happy she was with Jake, her voice carrying with the deliberate volume of someone who wants to be overheard. The strained smile on Jake's face told a different story. The wedding ceremony the following afternoon was genuinely moving. Alex and Sophia's vows reflected a mature, tested love, built on friendship and mutual respect. I felt a pang, not of jealousy, but of recognition, understanding now what had been missing in my marriage to Amanda. I applauded with genuine joy as they sealed their commitment with a kiss. The reception was held in a magnificent stone barn converted into an elegant venue with twinkling lights and flowing wine. I was enjoying a glass of Cabernet at the bar when Jake appeared beside me, slightly unsteady, after what was clearly not his first drink. "Bryant," he said with forced casualness. "Good to see you, man. You look different." "Good different or bad different?" I asked lightly, extending my hand. He shook it with slightly too much pressure. "Good, I guess. Been hitting the gym." "Among other things," I replied. "How have you been, Jake?" What followed was a conversation of calculated questions thinly disguised as small talk. Jake probed about my job, my new address, my car. With each honest answer I provided, his expression grew more strained. "So, Horizon promoted you to VP. That must come with a nice compensation package," he said, swirling his whiskey. "It does," I acknowledged. "Plus, the equity has performed well since we went public last quarter." His eyes narrowed slightly. "And you bought a place downtown. Those lofts must run what? $1 million plus." "Depends on the square footage," I replied, not taking the bait to discuss specifics. "I love being able to walk to restaurants in the arts district." Our conversation was interrupted when Amanda appeared, placing a proprietary hand on Jake's arm. Her eyes darted between us, clearly trying to assess what had been discussed. "Bryant," she said with a tight smile. "You look well." "Thank you. So do you." The ceremony was beautiful, was not it? "Gorgeous," she agreed, before steering the conversation toward herself. "We just booked our summer trip to the Bahamas. Jake surprised me with the reservations last week." Jake's smile faltered almost imperceptibly as several of our mutual friends joined the circle. "Bryant, tell them about your new place," said Mark. "The views are incredible. And that consulting project you did for that startup that just got acquired," added Sophia's brother Daniel. "Did not. They offer you some kind of ownership stake." As others chimed in with details of my recent successes, I watched Jake's expression cycle through surprised disbelief and something approaching dismay. Amanda's reactions were equally telling, her attempts to redirect the conversation growing more desperate. The pivotal moment came when someone mentioned my recent purchase of a lakeside vacation property. "You bought a lake house?" Jake asked, unable to mask his surprise. "Just a cabin," I said modestly. "Nothing fancy, but the sunset views are worth every penny." "Bryant is being modest," Daniel interjected. "Show them those photos from the fishing trip last month." I hesitated, not wanting to appear boastful, but Daniel insisted. I pulled out my phone and shared a few pictures of the property and some recent adventures. The cabin with its expansive deck overlooking the water, a sunset kayaking trip, a hiking excursion in the nearby mountains. Jake's face changed as he swiped through the images. It was not just envy I saw, but a dawning comprehension. He was seeing tangible evidence that I was not just surviving post-divorce, but thriving in ways that made his life with Amanda seem hollow by comparison. Amanda peered at the photos, her expression hardening. "It looks very rustic," she said dismissively. "I prefer luxury resorts personally." "Ready for another drink, Jake?" She tugged at his arm. "In a minute," he said, still staring at a photo of me with friends around a bonfire. "This looks great, Bryant. Really great." I thanked him sincerely and excused myself, leaving them to process the interaction. Throughout the rest of the evening, I noticed them in heated conversation at their table. Later, I overheard fragments of an argument outside the restrooms with Amanda hissing, "We could afford nice things too, if you would just push harder for that promotion." Several friends approached me throughout the night, sharing that Jake had been complaining to anyone who would listen about Amanda's constant comparisons. "She keeps talking about your loft and your car," confided Sophia's cousin. "Jake looks miserable every time your name comes up." I danced, enjoyed the exceptional food, and connected with friends I had not seen in years. For the first time in social settings that included Amanda, I felt completely unbothered by her presence or opinion. As the evening drew to a close, I had one final interaction with the couple. Walking to the shuttle back to the hotel, I passed them arguing in the parking lot. Jake looked up, meeting my eyes with an expression of unmistakable envy, tinged with something like respect. Amanda was tugging at the sleeve of her designer dress, which I later learned they had put on a credit card they could not afford to pay off. I nodded politely and continued walking, feeling not triumph, but an unexpected sense of compassion. I recognized the trapped look in Jake's eyes all too well. On the flight home, I reflected on the wedding weekend. What surprised me most was not Jake's envy, or Amanda's barely concealed jealousy, but my own reaction to them. Instead of the vindication I might have expected, I felt something closer to empathy, particularly for Jake. In the weeks that followed, text messages arrived from mutual friends sharing updates. According to Mark, Jake and Amanda had a blowout fight in their hotel room after the wedding reception. Daniel reported that Amanda had approached him asking pointed questions about my new life, particularly my financial situation. I chose not to engage with any of this information. There was a time when knowing Amanda was unhappy might have given me satisfaction, but that time had passed. I was no longer invested in her disappointment or the slow unraveling of her relationship with Jake. My focus remained on continuing my forward momentum. I expanded my consulting business, mentored junior developers at Horizon, and deepened new friendships that were healthier than many of my previous relationships had been. 6 months after the wedding, I began dating Rachel, an architect I met through a mutual interest in urban development projects. Unlike Amanda, Rachel had a centered quality, confident in herself without needing constant validation. Our relationship developed naturally without the intense drama or grand gestures that had characterized my marriage. The true test came unexpectedly at a technology conference in Seattle. During a networking lunch, I spotted Jake sitting alone at a table, looking visibly stressed. My instinct was to avoid him, but something made me approach instead. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Bryant, sure, have a seat." We exchanged awkward small talk about the conference speakers until Jake suddenly said, "Amanda and I are having problems." He seemed immediately embarrassed by the confession. "I am sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. He stared into his coffee. "She is never satisfied with what I can provide. The more I give, the more she wants. Now I understand what you went through." He looked up, a mixture of embarrassment and desperation on his face. "How did you deal with it?" The question caught me off guard. "Not well at first," I admitted, but eventually I realized my self-worth could not be tied to someone else's impossible standards. Jake nodded slowly. "I keep thinking if I just make more money or buy her the right things, she will finally be happy. But it never works. It never will," I said gently. That was the hardest lesson for me to learn. Our conversation shifted into unexpected territory, with Jake opening up about their relationship struggles and mounting debt. I found myself offering sincere advice about recognizing manipulation and establishing boundaries, surprising both him and myself with my lack of resentment. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Jake and Amanda had separated. According to Mark, Jake had finally reached his breaking point after discovering Amanda had opened secret credit cards in his name. She was now staying with her sister, apparently blaming Jake's lack of ambition for their problems. Shortly after their separation became public, Amanda began making indirect attempts to reconnect with me. She liked old photos on my limited social media accounts, asked mutual friends to mention her in conversations with me, and even sent a mistaken text that was clearly intended to start a conversation. I maintained polite but firm boundaries, responding to her eventual direct message, with a brief note wishing her well but making it clear I had moved on. Her reply, a lengthy explanation of how she had made a mistake and never stopped caring, went unanswered. By the 2-year anniversary of our divorce, Rachel had moved into my loft. Our relationship was everything my marriage had not been: balanced, supportive, and based on genuine compatibility rather than superficial attraction or status. I had been promoted to Chief Product Officer at Horizon, and my side business had grown enough to require its own small staff. The greatest realization through this journey was understanding that true winning after divorce had nothing to do with comparison or revenge. It was not about having a nicer car than Jake, or making more money than Amanda could spend. Real success came from building an authentic life aligned with my values, surrounding myself with genuine people, and finding peace within myself. The divorce that once seemed like the end of my world had actually freed me from a relationship that diminished rather than enhanced my life. The pain had been transformative, forcing me to rebuild myself on a stronger foundation of self-respect and clarity. I no longer needed Jake's envy or Amanda's regret to validate my choices. The look on Jake's face at the wedding when he realized I was winning was satisfying in the moment, but the lasting victory was in creating a life so fulfilling that their opinion had become irrelevant. Have you ever experienced an ex or their new partner realizing you are thriving without them? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey of rebuilding after betrayal resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button and like this video so others going through similar situations can find it. Consider sharing with someone who needs a reminder that their best life might be waiting on the other side of heartbreak. Thank you for listening. And remember, true winning is not about outdoing someone else. It is about becoming the best version of yourself.